you can become a completely new person in 365 days. I can't believe it's New Year already. I started off my New Year in Paris. I had such a good time in Paris. I was sick the entire trip, but I still made the best out of it. It was a really good time to ring in the new year and think about the intentions for the year, and it was such like a Pinterest memorable trip. That's the exact kind of way that I would want to bring in a new year, is celebrating with people I love, thinking about the year ahead. That's the energy we're bringing into 2025. You can do anything you want, change your life in 365 days. Because just 365 days ago, I remember when taking a trip to Paris for New Year's Eve was just a figment of my imagination. We had talked about it as a group of friends, but there was nothing concrete, and you have to really spend your time planning things out and thinking things through in order to make them happen. This is how you're going to change your life in 365 days. In order to get things started, you want to have a clear direction on exactly what you want to achieve. And I talk a lot about vision boards, and we talk a lot about setting goals, but what exactly does that mean for you? First, you have to recognize that there's so many different people and so much advice out there that you have to figure out what works best for you. Essentially, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be sharing advice with you, things that have worked for them to become successful, but it might not always work for you. And that doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. That just means we're all different people. And in order to be successful, you have to figure out what works best for you. So with that said, we have to recognize that there's different types of goal setting, and you want to figure out which type works best for you. The first kind of goals we have are SMART goals. SMART goals are clearly defined and very metric driven. The SMART in SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So for example, one of your SMART goals might be to start running, and you want to run a 5K by June and do it in under 30 minutes. I don't even know if that's something that's achievable, because that is not my own personal goal. It's just an example. These are very tangible goals. I first learned about SMART goals when I was in probably high school, and I feel like that's the measurement that I typically use because it gives me a clear direction on where I need to go. I know what the end result is. Here's what I need to do in order to get there. I think SMART goals can be really great if you're someone who is very driven by hitting things on the exact mark. The SMART goals, you have point A, point B, point C, and this is successful. SMART goals work for a lot of people. In the workplace, your boss might ask you to set SMART goals, especially when it's project-based. I think that works really well because if you have a short period of time and you know you need to accomplish something by the end of it, here's exactly how you'll measure if it's successful. People who are very analytically driven, these kinds of goals work a lot better for those people. But again, you can mix and match them. So this is only one type of goal. You also have outcome goals, which focus on the desired result. So for example, these are a little bit more broad and can be things like read 15 books, visit Europe, get engaged. Those kinds of things where it's like, this is my goal. I don't need to expand beyond that. I just know that I want to achieve this. I think this is something that most people tend to do where they're like, I want to do this thing, and then maybe they don't follow it up with action. There's nothing wrong with setting goals like this. I think these kinds of goals are for people that are self-starters. If you are consistent in saying you're going to do something and you do it, I think outcome goals are great for you. For me personally, I think of outcome goals as more of a thought starter. I think about my life in a visual perspective, and I'm like, okay, I know by the time I hit 30, I want to do this thing, or by the end of this year, I want to be here. So that's where I start. It's like, this is my goal, but I need to expand beyond that. That's where you get kind of those process goals. Process goals focus on the action you take to achieve your desired goals. This breaks down the outcome goal a little bit further. It's essentially working backwards and saying, I know this is what my goal is. Here's what I need to do on a weekly, daily, monthly basis in order to achieve this goal. It's like plugging in micro goals. For example, one of my goals this year is to really reduce my spending. And so I have a bunch of different little micro goals that will help me feel like I achieved this big goal. Some of those include cutting down my coffee expense, which is like such a heartbreak because I love going to get a little drink, a little latte, but I know in the long run of things, I'm spending unnecessary money on going to get a coffee every day or every 2 days. So in order to break that habit, The micro goal for that is to limit myself to a $25 budget each month. And so I know I'm on the right track to achieving this big goal of spending less if I'm able to hit this micro goal of only spending $25 on coffee a month. And that doesn't include like getting little coffee pods from Nespresso or ground beans, but it means like going to a coffee shop and doing like that little thing. That's how my brain works best, is being able to break down having an outcome goal. And sometimes I kind of interchange all three of them. I think you don't have to necessarily stick to one method. I think for me, having an outcome goal is like the big picture. And in order for me to actually stay on track and achieve my goals, I have to have process goals so that way I'm hitting my mark. I like to break these down quarterly, monthly, and almost even daily, just so I can start to build routines. I use Notion as a great tool to help me build up these habits. Right now, as I'm trying to rehaul and revamp my entire routine, I have a tracker on Notion that I'm clicking off each day as like, okay, here's my daily habits in order to be on track for my bigger goals. You're setting yourself up to fail if you are trying to use systems that you know don't work for you. It's taken me a really long time to develop this process and understand that I need clear instructions on how to achieve my goals in order for me to achieve them. Otherwise, it's just going to be ink on paper that's sitting there and waiting for me to finally do something. That's not to say I'm not a self-starter, but I'm not someone who can just write down an outcome goal and expect that by the end of the year I'll achieve it. I have to have a process, and I have to understand why this goal is important to me and how I can get there. So that's why I like to do a breakdown on a monthly, quarterly, weekly basis, just so I can stay on track. I've done like the girl math of understanding where I need to go and how long it's going to take for me to achieve this. Realistically, if I want to reduce my spending by the end of the year and I just say it and then continue to swipe and go online and buy things, I'm not doing myself any service. So like, I took the time to really audit where I was spending my money and understand why I'm doing that, and then reduce it. And like, it's like a little challenge. Like, goals are not supposed to necessarily be easy. Like, they are supposed to challenge you in a way where it's, you're doing something new, you're doing something you've never done before. So you have to give yourself grace. But at the same time, understand that in order to turn your life around in 365 days, you have to be dedicated to it. That's my personal bias, where I think process goals are really helpful for that, because it's just like a clear map. But that's not to say that SMART goals are not helpful. I think SMART goals work for the right person. But again, that goes back to making sure you're using processes that work good for you, and understand that everybody's different. So if none of these three work for you and you have a different method, do that. It's more important that you find something for yourself than just plugging and playing based on something someone on the internet said. As you're figuring out what method you want to use, as you're starting to set your goals, I find the most important part is to write it all down. And I mean traditional style, get a pen and paper, write it out. You need to take the time to really reflect. And I think we live in such a digital society where it's so easy to just type it up really quick on your phone or hop on your computer and just type it out. But it's like, you need that muscle memory of taking your hand, writing it out on paper. So it's like your brain is telling you you are going to accomplish these things. You need to make that registration in your brain that this is something that you are doing and you are going to achieve it. No one else, no one's gonna hold your hand while you do it. You have to do it for yourself. And I think it's really important to set the scene while you do this. Maybe light some candles, listen to some uplifting music. I like to put music that empowers me into a playlist, a manifestation playlist, affirmations playlist, just something that I know when I turn to this, I'm going to feel like my best self. And that's the energy you have to bring into 2025 with you, is like, you can do anything. I'm surrounding myself with things that are pouring back into me as I'm setting my goals for this year. And you want to use this as like a visualization exercise. Think about yourself as you are setting these goals, how you're going to feel at the end of the year. What will change about your life when you achieve this goal? Who will you be? What will you look like? Feel yourself becoming that woman that you are dreaming about on this piece of paper, because this is who you are deep down. This is who you want to be. This is who you're becoming. And so it doesn't just start at the end of the year, once you finally hit your goals. It starts now. You have to start becoming her now. And these goals are you proving to yourself that you can do it. And this is just the first step. So be serious about it. Be serious about it. Take the time and really be honest with yourself about what you think you can achieve. The goals should definitely be ambitious, but they should be achievable. So like going back to the SMART goals, you want it to be something that is achievable. You don't want it to be make $1 billion this year if you know for a fact you're not going to make $1 billion, even though, hey, wouldn't we all love to do that? But you want it to be something where you're not setting yourself up to fail. It's something you are challenged by, but you know you can achieve it. At risk of switching up the vibe, you also have to prepare yourself for when your goals do not manifest in the way that you hope they would. That's why I say setting your goals should be a challenge, but you also want to keep in mind that if you have 45 goals, you have to be realistic about what the success rate is going to be of them. You are not going to hit all 45. And if you do, props to you. Like, that's amazing. But there is a chance that you might not hit them all. So you have to be prepared for what that means when you don't. Like for me, last year, for example, I had 33 goals and I hit 7 out of them, which feels, it's not how I wanted to do 2024, but a lot of things are out of my hands. And I like to look at goals as shooting stars. So these are things I wrote down on paper. These are things I'm working towards. I'm trying to achieve them, but sometimes they don't always happen exactly when I want them to. So that number sounds huge. It sounds like I missed a lot of opportunities, but at the end of the day, I was still able to hit milestones that were really important to me. And some of the micro goals maybe mattered a little bit less when it came down to what my actual priorities were. So some of the goals that I did hit that were huge and major for me, I paid off 2 credit cards. I was featured in a piece of media, which was something that I really wanted to do. They talked about Let's Have Breakfast. They talked about my experience being a content creator. And that was just something that I was really excited for and something that I've been working towards. And then I also started my business. My LLC, yes, I got that. And these are things that it's like, if you look at the numbers on paper, maybe it feels like I'm not successful, but these are huge moments that you can't take away from me just because I didn't hit other goals. So that's like the silver lining of setting these goals is this is something that you are really working towards, but if you don't achieve it this year, that doesn't mean you'll never achieve it. So you got to keep working at it. So I see some repeats on my 2025 list that I didn't hit in 2024, but I'm still really excited and they're things I'm eager and working towards and know that I am going to achieve these things. And maybe it's just not as soon as I thought, but it's still going to happen in my lifetime. So yes, think of your goals as these shooting stars, this North Star. And even if you don't make it to the stars, at least you landed on the moon. I know we are a few weeks into 2025 already, but use this as a launch pad to either set your goals or look at the goals you've already set and see where you can revise them and see where you can make them feel a little bit more tailored towards yourself. You can become a completely new person in 365 days. It starts today. After you watch this video, you got to make it happen for yourself and prove to yourself that you can do it. You are the woman that you say you are, and you can achieve the goals that you set. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Have Breakfast. And if you want weekly updates, you can follow me at Jaden Eliz.